Everyone in the Solarian Empire believed Evan was the softest human they had ever seen. He spoke gently, walked quietly, and never tried to stand out. He always stayed behind Queen Lyra, keeping a respectful distance. To the alien nobles, he looked weak. To the guards, he looked harmless. And to the queen herself, he looked like a peaceful man who only wanted a simple life. But deep inside, Evan carried something he never wanted to show again. The story began during the Solarian Eclipse Festival, the biggest celebration of the year. The palace was glowing with silver lanterns. Music echoed across the sky. Alien children danced in the streets. Everyone waited for the sky to turn dark and blue during the rare eclipse. Evan walked beside the queen, holding a small gift in his hands. He looked completely calm, almost shy. The queen smiled at him. She liked his gentle presence. He made her feel safe in a quiet way. But then the sky changed. Not the eclipse. Something else. A massive shadow spread across the clouds, covering the city below. The music stopped. The lanterns flickered. Every alien eye lifted toward the sky. A dark fleet appeared. Black ships with no empire symbol, no signal, no warning. The guards panicked first. This cannot be right. No one should be above our shield. Queen Lyra felt fear rise in her chest. These ships were not friends. Their shape alone spoke of war. But Evan did not move. His eyes locked on the ships with a cold, focused stare. It was the first time anyone saw him look like that. Sharp, controlled, calculating. A man preparing for something. The queen touched his arm. Evan, what is happening? He did not answer. Then the first ship fired. A bright beam sliced through the sky, exploding near the palace balcony. The shock wave threw guard to the floor. The queen stumbled, but Evan caught her gently, far too quickly for a normal human. And in that moment, Lyra felt it. His strength, his speed, his steady heartbeat, untouched by panic. He whispered something she almost didn't hear. They found me. The queen froze. Found you? Who found you? Evan closed his eyes for a second, as if accepting a truth he had avoided for years. When he opened them, they were different, colder, brighter, aware. Another blast hit the outer shield. Screams filled the festival ground. The guards rushed forward, forming a line, but they were shaking. No one knew who the attackers were, except Evan. Lyra stared at him, breathless. This was not the modest man she married. This was someone else. Someone she never met. Someone she realized she did not understand at all. As the enemy fleet prepared for a second strike, Evan stepped forward. Not back. Forward. He stood alone in front of the queen, in front of the guards, in front of the falling sky. And for the first time, the queen wondered if her quiet human husband was hiding a power that could shake the galaxy. The attack ended as suddenly as it began. The dark ships pulled back into the clouds, leaving behind smoke, broken walls, and terrified citizens. The queen ordered the guard to check her survivors, but her eyes kept returning to Evan, the man who stood calm while everyone else panicked. He looked normal again, quiet, gentle, almost shy, yet the memory of his sharp, focused gaze refused to leave her mind. That night, the palace was locked down. Alarms stayed active. War lights glowed along every hallway. Soldiers whispered rumors as they moved. Did you see him move? He caught the queen before even the blast reached us. No normal human can do that. But Evan remained silent. He sat beside the queen in her private chamber, hands folded, staring at the ground like a man carrying guilt instead of fear. Lyra finally spoke, her voice low. Evan, you said they found me. What does that mean? Evan looked up, and for a moment she saw something ancient in his eyes, pain, memory, regret. I'll explain, he said softly, but not everything. Not yet. It was not the answer she expected. Before she could ask more, the door opened. Captain Varel, the head of security, entered. His face was pale. My queen, he said, avoiding Evan's eyes. The sensor logs, you should see them. He placed a floating screen in front of her. The footage replayed the moment of the attack. The blast, the shockwave, the queen falling, and Evan catching her. But the footage slowed to show the truth. Evan moved before the explosion happened, before the sound, before the guards reacted. Almost like he sensed it, Captain Varel cleared his throat. "My queen! Humans cannot do this. Not even enhanced ones." Lyra turned toward her husband. "Evan, who are you?" He didn't answer. Not immediately. Instead, he whispered, "I promised myself I would never show this again." The queen felt a chill. "Show what?" Evan stood up slowly. "My real self." Before he could continue, the palace lights flickered again. Another alert. But this time it wasn't an attack. It was a message. A message sent directly to Evan's name. Every guard stared. The queen stepped closer to the screen, heart racing. The message repeated in a rough, metallic voice. "To the runaway human prototype, you cannot hide. Return to us." Lyra felt her knees weaken. Prototype? Runaway? She turned toward Evan, stunned, but he looked at the ground, as if he had expected this moment to come. Captain Varel grabbed his weapon. "My queen, this man may not be safe. He may even be." Evan raised a hand. "I am not your enemy." His voice was calm but not weak, not soft, not gentle. It was the voice of someone who had survived something terrible. The queen realized something frightening. Evan was not afraid of the enemy's ships. He was afraid of himself. Silence filled the queen's chamber after the message ended. No one moved. No one breathed. Every guard stared at Evan like he was a different creature, something dangerous, something unknown. But Evan didn't look back at them. His eyes stayed fixed on the glowing screen where his name had appeared. The queen stepped closer, her voice careful and soft. "Evan, what do they mean by runaway prototype?" He didn't answer immediately. He took a slow breath, as if choosing words that hurt to speak. "I was part of a program," he finally said. "A human experiment, something the galaxy was never supposed to see." The guard shifted nervously. Captain Varel tightened his grip on his weapon, ready for anything. Evan continued, his voice steady but heavy. "They trained children to become perfect soldiers. Stronger, faster, sharper. Humans who could fight armies alone. I was one of them, the most successful one." The queen's heart cracked a little. Her gentle husband raised as a weapon? "Why did you never tell me?" she whispered. "Because I wanted to leave that life behind," Evan said. "Because I wanted peace. I wanted you." Lyra looked into his eyes, and for the first time she saw the depth of his pain. Not fear, but guilt. He wasn't hiding because he was dangerous. He was hiding because he didn't want to hurt anyone ever again. But the moment didn't last. The screen blinked again. The message repeated, louder this time, like the enemy knew Evan was listening. "Return, Prototype 1, or we claim the Queen's empire." The guards raised their weapons at the message, but Evan shook his head. "They won't stop," he murmured. "They came for me. They always come for me." The Queen felt anger rise. "No, this is my empire. They threaten my people, and they dare to use you against me?" Evan looked at her with sadness. "They don't want me as a man. They want me as their weapon again. And they think hurting your world will force me back." A loud boom echoed outside the palace. Another strike, this one closer. The enemy fleet had returned. The guards moved into formation. Alarms filled the hallways. The sky outside turned red with danger signals. The Queen grabbed Evan's hand. "Tell me the truth. Can you fight them?" Evan pulled his hand back slowly. "I can fight them," he said. "But if I do, I become the thing I escaped." Captain Varel stepped forward. "My queen, he must surrender to them. If he leaves, the threat leaves with him." Lyra's eyes widened. "Absolutely not." But Evan looked torn. His face showed conflict, loyalty to the Queen, fear of what he might become, and a heavy truth that danger followed him everywhere. Another explosion shook the palace. The Queen took a deep breath. "Evan, whatever you were before, I care about who you are now. Stay. Fight with me." Evan looked at her, shocked. No one had ever asked him that before. Far above them, the enemy fleet charged their weapons again. And the Queen finally understood. This battle wasn't just for her empire. It was for Evan's soul. The palace shook again, this time harder, closer, like the enemy fleet was no longer warning them but preparing to break inside. Guards ran through the halls. Shield generators glowed bright blue. Every alien in the palace prepared for a fight they were certain they could not win. Everyone except Evan. He stood still, watching the sky through the tall crystal window. His breathing was calm, steady, controlled, like a man waiting for something he had trained for all his life. Queen Lyra stepped beside him. Evan, the shields won't hold long. He nodded. I know. Captain Varel entered the room with a squad of soldiers. My queen, we must move you to the underground vault. Now! Lyra shook her head. Not without him. Varel hesitated, then whispered just loud enough for the queen to hear. My queen, we don't know what he truly is. Evan finally turned. His voice was soft, but something inside it made every soldier freeze. I am not your threat, but something worse is coming. Before anyone could reply, a deafening explosion shattered the outer barrier. A wave of energy blasted across the courtyard, throwing guards to the ground. The enemy ship descended like a black shadow, claws of metal spreading open. Dozens of armored invaders stepped out, tall, expressionless, all wearing the same symbol, the mark of the prototype program. The queen gasped. They are here for you. Evan exhaled slowly. Yes. The invaders raised their weapons and pointed them not at the queen, but directly at Evan. A mechanical voice boomed from the flagship. Prototype 1. Reactivate. That is an order. Evan shut his eyes. I hoped I would never hear those words again. Suddenly, one of the invaders fired. The blast shot straight toward the queen. Evan moved, not like a human, not like a soldier, but like something beyond both. He appeared between the queen and the blast before anyone understood what happened. His hand cut through the air, light bending around it, and the deadly beam scattered like sparks against an invisible shield. The soldiers stared, stunned. Captain Varel whispered, What kind of human is this? But Lyra watched with wide eyes. For the first time, she truly saw him. Evan's posture changed, back straight, eyes sharp, movement precise. Not gentle, not shy, not modest. He moved like a man designed for war. 3 invaders rushed forward. Evan dodged all 3, faster than their eyes could track. He struck with perfect control, no wasted motion, no hesitation, knocking them to ground before they could fire again. More invaders charged. Evan jumped high, higher than any human should. Energy blasts flew under him. He landed in the center of the group and pushed his palm forward. A shock wave burst from his hand, sending armored bodies flying. The queen whispered, breath shaking, You were hiding this? Evan didn't look back. I don't want you to see. I didn't want anyone to see. The voice from the flagship roared again. He has activated. The human weapon is awake. And now the entire empire finally understood. Evan was not a simple man. He was a storm that had been asleep far too long. Smoke rose from the palace courtyard. Invader bodies lay scattered across the ground, sparks flickering from their broken armor. Evan stood at the center, breathing slowly, his eyes still sharp and awake. Too awake. Queen Lyra stepped toward him, her voice shaking between fear and awe. Evan, how long have you been hiding this? He didn't answer. Not because he didn't want to, because he didn't know how to explain decades of pain in one moment. Above them, the enemy flagship lowered even closer. Its speakers crackled with a cold, metallic voice. Prototype 1, you have violated your recall order. Return now, or we erase this world. The queen's blood ran cold. They would destroy my empire, only to take you? Evan nodded slowly. Yes, they think I belong to them. They think I am still theirs. Captain Varel, bruised and limping, rushed forward. My queen, we cannot win against that fleet. If this human leaves with them, we survive. If he stays, we fall. Lyra glared at him. He is not a tool to send away. But Evan lifted a hand gently. Captain Varel is right. The queen's breath caught. Evan, no. Evan looked at her with a sad smile. They came because of me. They hurt your people because of me. If I go with them, this stops. Lyra grabbed his arm. You can't. You'll become their weapon again. You'll lose everything you are. Evan looked away. Maybe this is a price I must pay. A silence fell. Heavy. Painful. The enemy voice spoke again. Decision time. Surrender yourself or watch the Queen's palace burn. Missile chambers opened under the ship's wings. Bright lights glowed like the eyes of a monster waking up. Evan closed his eyes. He could leave. He could save the Queen, save her empire, save everyone. But he would lose himself. Lose his freedom. Lose the life he built with her. Lyra stepped closer, her voice breaking. You ran from them for years. You fought to be human, not a weapon. Don't throw that away now. Evan trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of the choice crushing him. He whispered, I cannot let them destroy your world. And I cannot let them take you. Lyra replied softly, You are my husband. You are not theirs. The ships above powered up, ready to fire. Evan finally looked at her, really looked, not as a queen, not as royalty, not as someone he had to protect, but as someone he loved. I won't run anymore, he said, but I won't surrender either. Lyra's heart stopped. Then what will you do? Evan stepped forward, eyes glowing with the strength he had held back for years. I will end this. Captain Varel gasped. You can't fight a whole fleet alone. Evan didn't turn around. I was made to fight fleets. The Queen took a shaky breath. Evan, come back alive. He gave her a gentle smile, the same gentle smile she had always known. I will, because this time, I'm fighting for something real. Above them, the enemy flagship prepared to fire, and Evan walked toward it, ready to face the empire that created him. Evan walked alone across the burning courtyard. Smoke curled around him. Sparks rained from broken walls. The alien sky glowed red from the enemy flagship hovering above the palace, like a giant metal predator waiting to strike. Queen Lyra watched him from the balcony, her hands shaking. He looked so small against the size of the ship, yet somehow he looked stronger than anything she had ever seen. The flagship opened its lower hatch. Hundreds of metal soldiers lined the entrance. A robotic voice boomed. Prototype 1. Kneel. Surrender. Reactivate. Evan didn't kneel. He didn't lift his hands. He simply whispered, I am done kneeling. A bright flash exploded under his feet as he launched himself upward. So fast the guard below couldn't even track his movement. He shot into the sky like a beam of light, crashing onto the ship's hull with a shockwave that echoed across the city. The entire flagship shook. Inside, alarms blared. Invader squads chased him through metal corridors. Evan moved like a silent storm. Precise, unstoppable, never hesitating. He disarmed soldiers without killing them, breaking weapons with his bare hands, smashing through reinforced doors as if they were thin paper. The invaders shouted, He's breaching Sector A. Seal the core. Stop him. He's heading for the control heart. But nothing stopped him. This was the man he once was trained to be, but this time he chose his own purpose. Back in the palace, the Queen watched the ship flicker with explosions. Every blast scared her, yet filled her with hope. Captain Varel whispered, If he destroys that ship, he saves us all. Lyra clenched her hands. And if he falls in there, I lose everything. Inside the flagship, Evan reached the core, an enormous glowing sphere containing the power source for the entire fleet. A group of elite invaders blocked his path. Their leader stepped forward. You were made to obey. You were made to destroy worlds for us. Why do you resist your design? Evan's eyes softened, not with fear, but with memories of Lyra's smile, her soft voice, her hope in him. I resist, he said quietly, because I finally have something worth protecting. He struck the floor with both hands. Energy pulsed outward like a wave of lightning. The core cracked. The entire flagship began to collapse from within. Outside, the Queen gasped as the ship split open, fire spilling into the sky like a dying star. Then, through the flames, a figure jumped out. Evan. He fell fast, landing hard but alive in the courtyard below. Lyra ran to him, dropping to her knees. You came back, she whispered, touching his face. He smiled weakly. I promise. The sky lit with one final explosion as the flagship fell, and with it, the entire prototype program ended. The guards bowed. The citizens cried with relief. And the Queen looked at Evan like he was something more than a hero. "You told me you were a modest man," she said softly. Evan laughed quietly. "I tried to be." She shook her head. "No, you are a human who changed the fate of an empire." Evan took her hand gently. "And that is enough for me." For the first time in centuries, the Solarian Empire found peace. Thanks to the quiet human who turned out to be stronger than any legend.